NHL Draft Week is here, and there's going to be a lot of excitement around the league. Who's going to go first? Who's going to get traded? We'll break all of that and more down next on the Squad Show.
You are talking puck with the NHL Squad Show, sponsored by Game Time. From the Oilers to the Stars, Golden Knights, and the Panthers, the Rangers, Avalanche, and yes, even the Maple Leafs. The Locked On Podcast Network brings together all its local experts to provide the scoops, breakdowns, and comprehensive looks at all the NHL, with plenty of trash talk to go with it. Don't miss the hard hits and glove-dropping hot takes on the Locked On NHL Squad Show. It's time to drop the puck.
Gil Martin here, and welcome to the NHL Squad. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get you ready for another wild week across the National Hockey League. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We have a great panel today. I am joined by Eddie Garcia from Locked On LA Kings, Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers, who is still recovering from the celebration of a second straight Stanley Cup, and David Morassutti of Locked On Leafs. And gentlemen, the NHL draft is just about here. What do you think is the biggest story that's going to come out of this year's draft?
I think it's.
I'm going to be there. That's going to be the biggest story.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
This is the decentralized? It
is. Yeah.
So a little different, but yeah, I that's one thing I always want to do is do a draft, go to a draft. So I'm sure it's that crypto, right?
It's not. It's actually across the street at a place called the Peacock Theater, which is a smaller venue, but it is right across the street from Crypto.com Arena.
Nice. Hopefully there'll be some excitement going on the stage, because like past few years it kind of feels like there hasn't been like those big sizable trades, right, to come at the draft or on the draft. Now there's not really going to be a draft floor, right, because everyone's going to be doing them from their command centers. So I want to see a team just go nuts and say, hey, we want to move up to the top 5, or we want to make a big splash, because we haven't really had that in a while. I feel like that's the draft's like we're waiting for something, and nothing happens.
Yeah. Last year there wasn't a single trade during the first round of the draft, so it's been a while since that's happened for the NHL. And to think that the amount of teams who have multiple first round picks, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Montreal Canadiens, Philadelphia Flyers here, I just think the biggest story for the NHL draft this year is everyone knows who's going to go number 1. It's going to be Matthew Schaefer to the New York Islanders. So what's going to be happening at number 2? The mock drafts I'm seeing, it's mostly centers like Michael Misa, Anton Friendel. And to think that the two teams after in San Jose and Chicago, they have guys who they have drafted as centers, who they have on their top 2 lines. So it's going to be a question if they choose the centers in for 2 or 3, like a Michael Misa and Anton Friendel, or even Caleb Dunoyer, who's going to be the guy currently in their lineup who could be shifted to wing? I know Connor Bedard, even this year, has shifted to wing. Does he stay there, or does he go back to his natural position at center?
And also curious as far as trades go, with this first round maybe not being as great as past drafts. Maybe even teams wanting to move out of the first round to acquire more picks later on, or use these first round picks to acquire a player. I know down the road here in Anaheim, Pat Verbeek is talking about wanting to move that first round pick if he can help get another player. They already made that Trevor Zegras trade already, so he's been very active. So, yeah, I think there's people that are looking to maybe package some of their picks to move out or to move down and try and acquire some extra picks as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially if you're a team that doesn't have a first round pick, or a team that's trying to trade out of that first round, like I'm hearing like a lot of like trying to trade out might be tough, because the value just isn't there later in the draft. A lot of eyes are on like that top 10. So I'm curious to see, again, is a team going to want to really team that's lower in the draft really want to push up. I think the Rangers were kind of that team that wanted to try to get in and get Higgins. Like that's like the one that I think everyone is looking for. But I think they already decided to move that pick.
Yes.
It's part of the
they
JT
moved
Miller
well.
trade. So
Yeah.
unless they're trading something else, it doesn't look like that's happening.
Well, and think about for the Rangers there for what giving Pittsburgh they're allowing the Rangers to have their own pick next year as opposed to this year. It speaks volumes on how these general managers see this year's draft versus next year. I mean, I know the grand prize at next year is talking about Gavin McKenna, who still has a decision to make on which college he's going to go to after playing in the CHL for Medicine Hat. So that's also an example of what Chris Drury is doing for how he sees the upcoming drafts versus this one. So let's see if teams are gonna give themselves an opportunity to trade back if need be in order to give themselves a better chance to win the lottery next year.
I thought that was a very interesting decision by the Rangers because, I mean, I think a lot of people will pick them next year to be a team, that went from out of the playoffs to maybe in the playoffs, depending on how things go. But, when you had a team that obviously won the President's Trophy the year before, then they have a down year, maybe they jump back to where they were, or at least as far as a playoff team. So you would think that maybe next year's draft pick isn't going to be where it is this year. So that was an interesting decision on their part to give up the 12th pick because, who knows where they're picking next year. Maybe even though it's a better draft, maybe it's not nearly as in a good a position as it is this year.
Yeah, but then the question becomes, is, let's say, the 20th pick in next year's draft better than the 12th pick in this year's draft?
True. They obviously believe it will be. I would think, or they wouldn't have made this move.
I mean, the bill is due for the Rangers. I mean, Shesterkin's contract is kicking in this year. I mean, the moment that the Rangers made that trade for JT Miller, I'm thinking, man, they have a whole bunch of guys who are going to be due. I mean, yeah, they shipped out Chris Kreider. They still have a decision to make on if they're going to give a qualifying offer to Keandre Miller as well. So that's another thing on how they're managing the books here upcoming. So it's going to be a lot of trying to fit everything in for them. So they might not have a bounce back as a lot of people are some people are trying to predict, because things fell off the rails or really, really quick when it came to the Jacob Trouba situation, and then now especially with the memo that came out. So who knows on how they are viewed across the league when it comes to just how Madison Square Garden treats their players. I know it's very corporate with how they run things, but I know they have the brand of Original Six and everything. But based on their track record recently, I wonder if that turns a lot of players off from going there.
It'll be interesting to see, how players react. And, the other thing for me, do you think there'll be a crush of teams that want to get into the top 10 because this draft is not very deep? Or do you think more teams will be laying back and saying, okay, let's accumulate more picks for next year?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like we have seen it on how many, past trade deadlines where teams really don't want to move that first round pick. Like I look at what Florida, right? When they made the trade for Marchand, they did their best to make sure that pick got pushed, right? If they were going to give up the first, it was going to be for a few drafts from now. I can't remember if they traded the 2026 pick yet. But
Seth
like
Jones.
those, yes. Okay. So the Seth Jones one, I think, yeah, probably worth it. But yeah, like there are just teams right now that there are some teams that have all the picks. There are teams that have no picks, right? But if you look at this 2026 draft, I mean, we are probably going to be seeing a very similar to what we saw in 2015, where there are going to be teams that are probably going to be out of it, and they're just going to do whatever they can to tank for Gavin McKenna. Like that's like that. We're starting to hear like that's the guy, like that's the next one. And so, yeah, if you're seeing trades happening, there are going to be some teams who are maybe say to themselves, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be good enough to compete. or, we might want to make some moves to improve ourselves. And then they're like, oh, first round pick. Yeah, no, we can't do that. Like I think you're going to see fewer first round picks go for that reason, or you're going to see a lot of those protections put on. Like if it's, lottery protection, almost every single one, even teams that will be nowhere near the lottery will make sure that pick does not end up in the lottery.
Well, I think Armando would tell us all that this draft is fun to talk about, but it's not all that important because we've got Alexander Barkov, Aaron Ekblad. That's about it. That's all we have. I mean, those are great players, but everyone else was not drafted, it seems like, anyway. So we'll use those picks to make our team better, and it's obviously worked out pretty well for the Panthers. Yeah,
Anton Lundell is the only other one for the Panthers that was drafted. But also, you think about the top five for this draft. I mean, three of the five have multiple first round picks in the next few years. San Jose, Chicago. I mean, and Utah was doing this even before they relocated from Phoenix to Utah. And I mean, it's either going to be stay where you're at, that might be the comfortable position, or trade back, but there might not be a scenario where they might. So they might be just very comfortable just being where they're at as well.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. And the draft starts Friday evening, and we're all looking forward to seeing that. Eddie, enjoy it, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I was at a draft in Newark, I think, what was it, 2014, I want to say, maybe. I'd have to look, but it's an enjoyable experience. You will definitely enjoy the ride, so to speak.
I will miss not seeing those conversations on the draft floor. People are, saying, "Oh, so-and-so is talking to so-and-so. I wonder what they're talking about." And of course, they're talking about, dinner or something. It has nothing to do with anything, but it's fun to at least point and say, "Look, they're talking."
My favorite clip was Brian Burke talking to the Senators GM at the time. I'm blanking on the name right now. Like, oh, you like that Kadri guy? Yeah, we like him. Well, we're going to take him. It's like, oh, what a troll move, right? That was so like even conversations like that get picked up. Perfect. Great conversations.
Yeah, that will be missed. All right, we have got a lot more to get to today. The Hockey Hall of Fame's class of this year just announced. We'll talk about that. We've got that and more coming up on the Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. So you can use Monarch for so many different things. Did you ever wish you had all your accounts and spending in one place? If you share your finances with someone, Monarch can help you stay on the same page and work together to meet your goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. So the class of 2025 announced, pretty packed class, just a lot of people going in. I'm going to start with one who's been waiting a long time, and he's been Mr. Next Year every year, Alexander Mogilny, finally getting in. Is this overdue? Is this not deserved? What are your thoughts?
So overdue.
16 years. 16 years he's been waiting.
Mike and I have been beating this drum for so many years. I know people have been beating the drum even before I knew about him being a snub for the Hockey Hall of Fame. We're talking about a guy who was a trailblazer, somebody who, okay, maybe he didn't have as many of the career accolades as some of the other players you see going to the Hall of Fame, but the guy left Russia to come to the NHL. Was one of the first to do it. Like, how are we not celebrating that? The guy played 16 years, well over a point per game in the NHL. He did win a cup with the Devils. So, like, he has everything you could want in a Hockey Hall of Famer. And yet, for 16 years, this guy couldn't get in. Was it because he was a former Leaf? Could be it. Maybe that's it. We can't have too many Leafs in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But no, I had so many people message me, just all caps, Mogilny got in. Like, that's how much like everybody else but the Hockey Hall of Fame were recognizing this guy's career.
I don't know about Alexander Mogilny getting it.
Eddie, are we about to throw down right now?
Maybe. I just look, I've always been, I don't think I'm a Hall of Fame snob or anything, but I've always kind of looked at the Hall of Fame as being really the elite of the elite of the elite, right? And look, Alexander Mogilny had a wonderful career, almost 1,000 games played. And there's some stats that you just shake your head out and laugh, like 76 goals in 77 games, which is insane. But I mean, he never won a major award like all the other guys that are in this with Duncan Keith and Chara and Thornton. He did play in an era where there was, a lot of amazing scorers with Mario Lemieux, obviously, and Gretzky and all those guys. So a little overshadowed, I guess. But I don't know. I think he's one of those guys that's kind of more Hall of Very Good rather than Hall of Fame to me. And I mean, you want to talk about trailblazing, that's fine. And I think that can be a component in it as well. I look at the stats and there are some crazy things in there, but all in all, I don't know that I consider him one of those superstars of his era.
Put some respect on the Lady Byng, Eddie. He was the Lady Byng winner in 2003.
I should, with Andrei Kopitar being a three-time winner. So you're right, I should do that. Yeah.
He is also a member of the Triple Club as well, the IHF Triple Gold Club. So
yeah,
and it is the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's not just the NHL Hall of Fame. So that's a fair point.
And
do you think he had to wait a little longer because he's Russian?
I would hope not, but I wouldn't completely discount that either. I would say one thing back in the day when I mentioned that season, he had 76 goals and 127 points. He wasn't even a finalist for the Hart Trophy that year, even though he tied with Teemu Selanne for the most goals in the NHL. So maybe back in the day, back in the 80s, that could have been a factor.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that he did accomplish quite a bit outside of the NHL as well. That should be recognized as well. The gold medal with the Soviet Union, World Championship, and the Stanley Cup. Like, to me, if you're a triple gold club guy, and like I don't think he was a passenger either in those, you should be recognized in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, that should give you a really good chance to get in. But hey, now we can say for sure he got in, and now we can talk about the other guy who was snubbed from this list. Or we want to talk about the full list first, maybe.
Well, who are you referring to who was snubbed?
Well, there's some. I mean, I don't know how the Locked On Canadians are going to feel to not see Carey Price in his first year of the ballot and not get in. That's tough because he is we're talking about greats of the greats. Carey Price was and this is coming from the Locked On Leafs host, guys. Carey Price, phenomenal, right? The only thing he was saddled with was a pretty under par Canadians team that couldn't help him really get. Yeah, sources say I'm pretty sure they are. Like, I do think that he should have been in. Gold. Think about the last time the NHL were at the Olympics. He was rock solid for Canada, even though Canada had a great team. It was because they had the best goaltender in the world at that tournament. Winning a Hart Trophy, which as a goaltender, not many goaltenders. We just had Connor Hellebuck do it, and it was it's such a rare accomplishment. Look, and there's some, and this year they actually added so many more players to this list. It was it's hard to say no to some of these guys that got it, and it's just maybe one guy could have been left aside for Carey Price this year.
Who would you take out, though?
Oh,
Mogilny.
I mean, if you're talking about just from the players list, because we have Thornton, Chara, Keith, Mogilny, you could probably make the case for a guy like Thornton not to get it in this year.
Wow.
I would take Carey Price over Joe Thornton, in my opinion. Because Joe Thornton had a really good stretch where he was, yes, among one of the better. But Carey Price, in my opinion, for the longevity of his career, was the best goaltender in the NHL. But that's the thing. We're talking about guys now like Duncan Keith, amazing defenseman, right, in his time. Zdeno Chara, I don't think anyone's discounting like that guy definitely deserves to be on that list. I just think, yeah, maybe it was, okay, we're going to get Mogilny in there, but guess what? No Carey Price, which he'll get in next year. I guess maybe that's like we're kind of picking straws at that rate, but it's also like, is there something to be said when you're a first ballot Hall of Famer? Like you ask any MLB, any baseball writer, having that guy as a first ballot means a lot. So I wonder, there are going to be some Canadian fans who are going to be fuming that they'll think that Price was snubbed.
Yeah, it's, and when you think of like who to take out, I mean, to take out a 2-time Norris Trophy winner and a Conn Smythe winner in Duncan Keith, that's like a definite no for me. I mean, Zdeno Chara, the career that he's had, especially some of the lasting impressions he had. I mean, he played a freaking Stanley Cup final with a broken jaw. Let's not forget that about what he went through to try to win a second Stanley Cup for him in 2019, even though they fell short. But what he went through with that, and also, let's give credit to not only there was one female athlete to make the Hall of Fame, but there were two. Jennifer Botterill, Olympic gold medalist, also part of Hockey Night in Canada, and Brianna Decker, USA Hockey as well. So I want to also recognize those two who also made it to the Hall of Fame.
And I think it would be tough to deny Thornton. I mean, more than 1,500 points, 4-time postseason All-Star, Hart Trophy, Art Ross Trophy. You know, they need more spots, really, or they needed to have put Mogilny in a couple of years ago to sort of make it a little fair. But I think you have a good point about Carey Price. And, it'll be very, very interesting. Well, free agency is also right around the corner. We're going to dip our toes into that, who we think is moving and maybe to where. That and more coming up on the Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by Rougier. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougier Ready. Rougier Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougier's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes, the effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougier may be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. I love that it's completely online. Rougier connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships treatment directly to your door. Head to Rougier.com/LockedOnNHL and use code LockedOnNHL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL and use promo code LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit Rougier website for a full safety information. Free agency kicks in early next week. Who do you think is the biggest name that's most likely going to be on the move and where?
Should David go first?
I think we all know the answer to that question.
I think we do. Mitch Marner alert.
Well, it seems like this jersey here is going to be a relic very, very soon because, it's going to – well, the funny thing is it's going to be the Mitch Marner watch. And I'm going to be giving my first guarantee that Mitch Marner likely doesn't sign on July 1st, because I think he's going to want to push this process where he wants a bidding war potentially. And it's going to give me like the Brad Richards sort of treatment, right? All these teams going, they give the meetings and do their pitches, and then Brad Richards picks where he wants to go. I don't know if you guys remember that one. To me, that's giving it. Now, I could be wrong in this, but that's kind of what I heard, is that Mitch Marner is not likely to sign on the first day, and that he's going to kind of want to soak in, I guess, this experience of getting to choose where he gets to play next.
But do you think that will make other teams hesitate to sign other players, hoping that they can keep the cap space? And boy, do you need a lot of cap space to add Mitch Marner. If he's asking for $13, $14 million AAV, you can't sign someone else if you want to still be in the Mitch Marner sweepstakes.
I know the LA Kings have been mentioned as a possible destination, which is surprising to me because they never sign any big-time free agents in their history. But I think if you're Ken Holland, the new GM of LA, you have to make your best pitch. And if he doesn't take it, you got to get out. You can't get caught waiting for Mitch Marner to make his decision, and understandably so, to possibly try and drive up the price with a bidding war, pitting teams against each other. You've got to make your best offer. And if he doesn't take it, then you get out and move on to other business, because you can't wait for him and have other opportunities and other players that you're interested in sign with other teams, and then in the end you're holding the bag and you've got nothing in it. So I think there are certain teams that are going to have patience, but there's certain teams that won't. And I think probably the Kings are one of those teams that needs to figure out what is the max we're willing to offer him, make the deal, tell him you've got 24 hours to accept, and then if you don't, we're out.
And I think it was Frank Saravelli who mentioned this on Daily Faceoff, that just because the Anaheim Ducks have all this cap space does not mean that they're going to go all in on free agency when it comes to just having a spending spree when it comes to that, because they still want to build for the long term as well, along with a lot of their young pieces, because the fact that they have to do some of these extensions very soon. So if they have to be waiting for Mitch Marner, there was a talk about how Pat Verbeek, who's very tough-nosed when it comes to his negotiations, is going to move on very quickly as well. So could that actually work against him when it comes to the money that he actually wants? Who knows?
I think the one thing, that's going to go against Marner here is, unless the team is really, really pushing and really wants him, there's going to be teams that are going to be like, look, we need a decision. We need to know what we need to do. And look, it's going to also, you see this when there's the big fish in free agency, it holds everybody else up in a way, right? So if you're a top free agent, if Mitch Marner decides to wait, and it's like, well, I'm ready to sign with somebody give me money, right? That's could be the concern. So I think if you're a team that's going to have this meeting with Marner, you might say, look, this is our deal. The offer is until this long. Let us know. Otherwise, we got to go and look elsewhere. And that's where you got to be careful, where you try to feel like you have all the leverage and all the eyes on you. It can backfire very easily as well.
Now, David, you talked about, other teams may want to go elsewhere if Marner isn't available. For those teams that aren't in on Marner or don't end up signing Marner, who, if they're looking for offense, who's next on the list?
Well, we know that apparently everyone's going back to Florida, so reportedly, so you can cost Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand potentially off that list. I think Brock Besser is going to get a lot of attention. He's a guy that can score and is proven that he can score at a pretty good rate. If Nikolai Ehlers makes it to the market, there's like the Jets want to keep him back after they got Taves too. They may want to see if they can try to bring as much back. He would be another one that could decide, you know what, I want to see what I can get on the market.
There's a jersey right behind you.
There is, and I'm not saying that one because I'm holding a hope that he doesn't make it to the market, because if John Tavares does make it to the market, he probably would be the best center available on the market. And so if that happens, the Leafs would have bungled very badly on a player that wanted to stay in Toronto, and they'll be catastrophic just failure if they just allow Tavares to get there. So yeah, those are kind of the guys I'm looking at because it's pretty bearable. Like Patrick Kane could be another one if Detroit's not able to keep him around. Like that's a guy who's proven he can score. He seems to be getting healthier now after having that hip surgery a few years ago. So like those are the guys I'm looking at. I didn't want to put Tavares in there because I didn't want to put that in the universe. Wanted to keep the one guy. Keep one. Let us keep one, guys.
I think Tavares ends up staying with how he performed in the contract year, high 30s in goals in that last year. I think they try to find a way to keep him, and I'm very interested to see how the Winnipeg Jets managed this free agency period. $24 million in cap space. I just saw with Ehlers being a free agent, and he's going into his 30s when it comes to this new contract. They already made the extensions of Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck last offseason. They made the commitment to him. They also extended Neil Pionk as well. So there's also the trying to keep the core together. So how much is Nikolai Ehlers really going to command when it comes to going a contract possibly finishing at 37, 38 years old for him?
It's going to be a wild couple of weeks, and of course, we'll have it all covered for you here on Locked On NHL. I want to thank everyone for making the Locked On NHL Squad Show your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off season. We'll be bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Gil Martin. I want to thank Eddie Garcia, Armando Velez, and David Morassutti for joining me today. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll be back next week with more exciting talk here on the NHL Squad.